All right, well, good morning. As Peter so eloquently said, I am, along with my brother Bob, who, by the way, hasn't gotten any recognition yet this morning, but we are brothers and we're best friends and we are co-owners of Pauly Jail. So on behalf of my brother and I and all the other people from Pauly Jail Building Company and our team, we want to welcome you to the seminar today. And I'm going to start off with, I call it the demise of the correctional industry. Now, some of you who have been here for the last 3 or 4 years, I think I first started this presentation probably in 2014, and that's when we first saw the marketplace was starting to come back after the downturn in construction, and what normally should have happened is companies should have rebounded and gotten stronger. What we found out in the correctional industry was it just went the opposite. Manufacturers went out of business between 2014 and 2018 at a rate of probably 75% of all the different manufacturers in this country. Some companies have been around for over 100 years. When the market went back up, they went out of business. And people say, well, Joe, how did that possibly happen? I said, well, there's only one explanation. And what really happened was when the construction industry turned down in 2009, 10, 11, 12, we have architects and CMs here. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You can all shake your heads. What normally happens in a downturn is people that are undercapitalized or who take on too much work go out of business. And that did happen in the general construction market. In the correctional marketplace, that didn't happen because there was so much jail work for pent-up demand. So jails kept bidding, and more people kept chasing fewer and fewer jobs. And pretty soon the numbers got so cheap, but people kept taking work. And eventually, those bills came due, and those manufacturers and detention contractors and door control companies went out of business. So we started this demise presentation 4 years ago, and a lot of people thought it was just another sales pitch from Pauly Jail. And I said, well, you just got to stick with me. And then we got to 2015, and a lot of people went out of business. 2016, we saw 15 companies go out of business. So last year, we showed, let's see, how do I do this? Okay, so last year, we had 2 more companies go out of business. So I'm going to repeat this a little bit for a lot of the new people that are here this year that didn't see this. So one of the largest window companies, CM Windows, went out of business last year in a boom market. And the largest detention equipment contractor and door control company went bankrupt last year. And the reason I say that's key is when those companies went bankrupt, they weren't building your county school or your county courthouse. They were building your county jails. In fact, you're going to see a presentation later on this morning from TJ Rogers from Accurate Door Controls, and he's going to address how that is a critical situation on a major project out in California. So last year when I was done, a lot of people came up and they asked me if I thought the demise of the correctional industry was over, and I said, no, I don't think it's over. And so just in June of this year, Roster International Architects, some people here might know them, most people don't because they're not really from this area, but they were in the 1980s and 90s probably the largest security architectural firm in the country. And they just closed their doors. And once again, my point about that is when they closed, they had county jails going on in 4 or 5 different states. All right? So that being said, that's going to get me to where we're going to go here next. And the reason I bring this all up is I tell people all the time, and Rob had a great presentation, you know, when you're going to set out to build a new jail or renovate a new jail, a lot of times the county commissioners and the sheriff's department, they decide they're going to pick an architectural firm, and they pick a good security architectural firm, and they go, whew, boy, my work's over. No, the work is just starting, okay? And so we're going to try to follow that program as I go through my presentation this morning. Okay, so as I was talking about before, in the mid-1990s, these were all the detention equipment contractors, which is what Pauly Jail Building Company is, that operate in the United States of America. Some of them, like ISI Detention, Southern Steel, Normant, they were $100 million, $150 million, $200 million a year companies. Some, like Stewart Decatur, had been in business for over 120 years. All right? So you would have thought they were experts, they would have done fine. And now we pull up 2019. And of those contractors that are left, Most of them, which I don't put the dollar value of their companies up there, but most of those companies are pretty small detention equipment contractors, and for the most part don't have the financial capability or bonding to do any small to medium size or larger county jail projects, and they're kind of regional. But you'll find there's 3 national firms. There's Pauly Jail, and we pretty much operate in 14, 15 states. CML, that's out of Colorado. They probably operate in the western United States. You won't see them out here very often. And then you have Cornerstone Detention out of Alabama, and they operate in the entire country. And that pretty much, in a nutshell, is all the detention equipment contractors that are left that are financially large enough to get a bond to do your projects, okay? And we'll go to the security electronics. This is the same thing. We have 3 electronics firms here today. We have SAS Systems, which is right here in Indianapolis. We have Stanley, which is here in Indianapolis. We have Accurate Door Controls from Ripon. I would argue that those are the 3 best quality security electronics firms left in the country. But back in the day, in the mid-1990s, you can see how many firms were out there. And today, that's all we have left. And actually, Southern Steel. TJ, would you say Southern Steel is really even doing security electronics anymore? Okay, and the reason this is so critical is obviously everyone here is going to be building a new jail. We have people from Branch County, Michigan. We have Dane County, Wisconsin, and we have all the different counties here from Indiana. And everyone wants to know, well, Joe, why is that so critical? And the reason I think it's critical is at the end of the day, when you hire your architect and your construction management firm, you need them to work together to get to know everything that's going on in the country, because you say to me, well, Joe, why is it important that I know about some of those projects that are going into bond claim in California? Why does that affect me at Branch County, Michigan, or Dane County, Wisconsin? And my answer to that is, when those companies out there on those jobs, if they go out of business, and some of them are, well, maybe they'll be the guys that were going to be on your project. Okay, so I tell people all the time, you have to be thinking forward. Companies don't go out of business in 2 weeks. It's normally a couple-year process, and that's why the construction managers and architects need to do more due diligence, not less. So we can roll this into security hollow metal door companies. All right, I think we have the leading security door company in the country, Titan Steel Doors, here today. But look at all the different manufacturers that were here just 20-something years ago. Some of those companies had been around for well over 100 years. Some of them, like Chief Industries in Nebraska, they were a multi-billion-dollar-a-year corporation, and they lost so much money a few years ago, they just closed the division up. And you can see who's left today. We basically have a company, American Steel, that owns Trust Built, so that's basically one manufacturing firm. We have Titan Door Company, and we have Slate Security, which is a small firm in Alabama that Cornerstone owns. And you have Sweeper Metal Fabricators, is another small company in Oklahoma. But those 2 companies really don't sell their products nationally. They sell them for the jobs that they have. So nationally, you pretty much have 2 firms. You have Trust Built up in Huron, South Dakota, where their plant are, and you have Titan Steel Door down in Georgia. And that's all we have for the entire industry, all right? All right, we're going to discuss this later on today, because one of the best presentations we have here today is Mike Smith from Steel Cell of North America. His products outside underneath the tent. He is the leading steel cell manufacturer in the country, has been for well over a decade. But back in these days, in the 1990s, you could see how many competitors of his were out there. In fact, Mickey Rosenberg is here, who used to work for Mark Correctional. He was one of those guys back in the day. And today, that's all we have left. We have Sweeper Metal, who is a manufacturer. Now, I bring up that point as a manufacturer, and I want to kind of go over that a little bit. To me, a manufacturer is a company that owns a plant, has tools, equipment, engineers, has testing. So Sweeper Metal Fabricators in Oklahoma, I've been to their plant, Drumright. They make a plate cell, but they have a manufacturing plant. Mike Smith at Steel Cell of North America has a 120,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. He's getting ready to build a 50,000 square foot storage facility. I'd recommend I know a lot of people here could probably raise their hand and say that they've been to the plant. I would highly recommend anyone, whether it's an architect, a CM, or an owner, if you're contemplating building a new facility and you're thinking about steel cells, the trip down to Georgia where you can see Titan steel door plant and steel cell in about a 30-hour, day-and-a-half trip, well worth the time and effort. Okay, so now we're going to get to, so this is what I've been talking about. So the big issue we have now, we have more and more jails. I think in the state of Indiana coming up over the next 2 or 3 years, architects out there, what do we have, 30 to 40 new county jails, right? That's on top of new state work coming up in Indiana, and we have projects going on like Marion County. So if you just took a look at the states of, I think we've done this analysis, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, there's more county and state jail work coming up than we have capacity for the entire country in 3 states, all right? And so when I tell people all the time, you better think real hard when you pick your architect and construction management firm. First of all, you want to pick guys that are experts in the industry, and then you need to make sure that they're going to do the due diligence for you, because once again, for a lot of the counties out there, this county jail or this county jail courts complex might be your largest capital expenditure building that you're going to build. And unlike a school or a hospital, as you sheriffs out here know, that building takes a pounding 24/7, 365. There's no way you can cut corners and say that it's going to pan out in the long term. All right, so we're going to get to, all right, this is kind of, we talk about this all the time. So at your desk in front of you should have a Pauly Jail folder, and inside of there, there'll be several handouts. There's handout 1, 2, and 3. I'd like you all to kind of take those out and look at them. And what they are is, like I've been talking about, we've been talking about pre-qualifications and doing due diligence, all right? So that your county is not the county that gets stuck with the manufacturers or contractors that are going out of business. So each one of those handouts, and I know there are a lot of architects and CMs here that have used them. There might be a couple of CMs here that have not used them. I would encourage you to all to start to look at these a little bit more closely as you get to your next job. So basically what it does is, you as the architect and the CM, in fact, we're working with a couple architects that are here right now. They've got a couple of jails coming up, and we're convinced them now to send out these pre-qualifications, and you want to send them out to all the detention contractors, all the security companies, and all the steel cell companies. You want to give them all a chance to meet the qualifications. So if you're an architect and a construction management firm, you've actually been hired by a county, so they've obviously probably gone and see some of your other work. And they hired you because you're experts and you've got a great track record, all right? Well, if I'm the county commissioners, I'm going to expect you then to give me that same track record from my, because you know, at the end of the day, there are a lot of qualified masonry contractors. You can find some good plumbers, you can find some good electricians. What we have a real lack of in this country anymore is quality detention contractors and manufacturers. So the 3 key components on most county jails, at least around this territory that we all know, are detention equipment contractor, your security door control company, and your steel cells, all right? And so you take those, you sit down with your county attorney is always a good person to have involved. You send the pre-qualifications out. You give the people, the companies 2 weeks to respond, and when they get their responses, they come back in. The architect and the CM should be working together, all right? They should do their due diligence, get the answers, check out the facts, and then make a determination, okay, this manufacturer has got a quality product, a great track record, he's financially strong, I feel he's going to be good to bid this job. And then you need to share that, though, with your county commissioners, because so many times I see this happen. A job comes out to bid, the architect's done a great job, CM's done a great job, they've written a good spec, but they haven't done the prequals, all right? And at the end of the day, the companies that might not be as qualified, aren't in the bid list, aren't in the project, they call up the county commissioners. They threaten to come. Tony Valles here from Elevatus. Tony, raise your hand. You could probably speak to what happened on Adams County, correct? Companies that did not get approved came to the county commissioners meeting, brought their lawyers, threatened to sue everybody. What happened? Well, the county was prepared because the construction manager was working with Elevatus, the architect. They had informed the county commissioners, and they were well prepared when that firm showed up, and they shut it down in 5 minutes. Now, I can tell you that is more the exception than the rule. So many times we've looked, and jobs end up at the last minute. Here come the people that aren't qualified. They send threatening letters. They call the papers. They're going to sue everybody. And next thing you know, the county commissioners are like, well, we don't want to get sued. I guess we'll just let them bid. And then everything you've worked on for 2 years, all the trips you've made, all the different facilities you've seen, everything that you wanted, you're this year, now it all goes down the toilet in one addenda that lets anybody bid anything. And I can guarantee you, I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to call out facilities, but we all know the projects around this territory that have gone that way. There's a prime example here in Indiana, Davies County. I could go down the list. Graterford, Pennsylvania is a state prison that they built that was supposed to be done 3.5 years ago in Pennsylvania. It ended up 32 months behind schedule, $31 million in liquidated damages. It's going into the courts and bond and bankruptcy claims. It might run on for 10 more years, all right? And the owner, at the end, you know what happened on the project? The owner didn't pre-qualify anybody. He said, well, people are too big to fail, but they failed anyway. And now he has a $400 million facility. It's probably never going to operate correctly, all right? And that, my friends, honestly, I know people say, well, maybe Joe's just gets giving me all the bad jobs. I would like to tell you there are a lot more good jobs, but there really aren't. And I know there are people out in the audience that don't want me to call on them, so I won't, but we all know the projects, right? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so at the end of the day, and there are some architects here. I think Tony Vai is a great example. Scott's done it. The RQAW guys, Gilly Goldberg, Eric Ratz, and the process is really simple and it's really basic. And at the end of the day, it doesn't prohibit anyone from getting qualified. It's just you have to have standards, all right? Manufacturers and contractors go out of business because they lack financial stability, all right? And at the end of the day, do you want to be the county commissioner that has that happen on the jail that you're building? No, you don't, okay? So we'll go to the last thing, and this is another component to this whole process, and I had this conversation with a couple construction managers before I came up here this morning. It's a bid listing form, and it should be at the back of your presentation handout from Pauly Jail. And what we like about that is on bid day, the construction managers here put out a bid package, and they want you to list all the key manufacturers. So if you're bidding a jail project, it might be a good idea to list your mechanical, electrical, plumber, but it certainly is going to be critical to list your detention contractor and his manufacturer so that you know from that short list that I just showed you that the manufacturers that the architect approved are going to be the ones that can do your project. Now, I know for a fact that two things happen when you use a bid listing form. All right, the manufacturers that are here, how many of you guys have ever been bid shopped on a project before? Raise your hand if you're, yeah. Every manufacturer in here has been bid shopped before. So what that means is on bid day, let's say I bid a job for $1 million, and there is no bid listing form handed in with my bid. Now the general contractor, if there's a general contractor, can take my number, and probably in about 30 minutes, he can shop 15% out of that, which means he takes $150,000 of quality product out of my bid, puts it in his pocket. Does he ever give it back to you? No, he keeps it. And then you get a lesser quality product and project, all right? That's number one. Number two, when you have a bid listing form, and please, some of the manufacturers out there, I don't want to call on you by name, but when you bid a job, if you have a job A county and B county, Craig Alderson and Willoughby Toilets has to bid A county and there's no bid listing form, but on B county, you know that Pauly Jail has to turn in your name with their bid. So which job do you have to have the best price on? The job that has bid listing, because you have to be low when I turn the bid in. The job that doesn't have bid listing, how much money do you guys put on a non-bid listed job? 15, 20% extra markup? Now that means you as the owner just paid an extra 20% because he may or may not get shopped. So the numbers then go up exponentially. So at the end of the day, these two handouts together, the pre-qualifications And then at the time of the bid listing form, it's our belief, and my manufacturers and all the people from Pauly Jail, it's our belief with that little bit extra work, you can guarantee yourself a quality project. And that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions at all about the bid listing forms or the pre-qualifications? How will they work? So I've given another perfect presentation. Is that what you guys are telling me? Okay. All right, Peter Graves, come on up. Thank you, everybody.